Raw Story is reporting an anti-Muslim hate crime that was directed at a Buddhist. They say, quote, a Buddhist monk was assaulted in Oregon by a man who mistook him for a Muslim. Kozen Sampson, 66 years old, told the station he was visiting Hood River on Monday when he heard a man yelling at him. Quote, I pulled over, someone ran up and yelled, I turned around, they kicked the door, hit me in the side of the face, and knocked my head into the frame of the car. I do remember him yelling an F-bomb about Muslims, and that was it. Now, what's fascinating is this guy, again, Buddhist monk, he goes on to say, if anything, I feel bad for that guy. Because he's just a pathetic guy. Could you imagine living your life looking around all the time? I mean, the guy lives, where is it? In Oregon? And he's like, the Muslims are coming! Oh my god, the Muslims! Oh my god, be afraid! And these clowns can't even get their hate right. Like, he hates Muslims, and he's like, I don't know, close enough. He's wearing some shit that looks like some foreign shit. Fuck him. I'm gonna attack him. And we saw this after 9/11. We saw this, again, recently, just after the attacks in Paris, how there are genuine bigots who just assume, no, it is all Muslims. Like, they're all the problem, all people who don't look exactly like me. It's xenophobia, it's bigotry, it's fear of the other. And a lot of people get mad at me, and they're like, why do you keep, like, that's obvious. Obviously, it's not all Muslims. Why the fuck do you keep bringing it up? Why do you keep covering stories like this? Well, number one, I cover them because they're happening, so I should tell you the facts. But number two, no, not everybody thinks like you, dipshit. Not everybody's like, oh, no, I know it's not all Muslims. Let's be nuanced in how we think about this. There are plenty of idiots who are like, no, I am going to blame all Muslims. You're collectively responsible, and we're gonna literally launch attacks against you like this. There are people who are willing to do the generalized thinking for others, but when it's them, oh, how dare you assume that the bad people are representative? It's like saying, hey, you're a Christian, you must be part of the KKK. You're a Southern Christian, I guess you're in the KKK. No, that would be wrong, and that would be bigoted to just assume that. Whereas, you know, the way they look at Muslims is, that is what I'm going to assume. The bad people are representative, whereas with us, the bad people are an exception. That's the mindset. So they can't even get their fucking hate right, which is why you saw post 9/11 and post the Paris attacks, you had hate crime shoot up, not only against Muslims. We covered many of those on the show here. But you also had it shoot up on Sikhs, which many people, they just say, I don't know, you look Muslim enough, attack. And now Buddhists, too. I hadn't seen Buddhists. I've heard Sikhs, maybe a few Hindu incidents, but this is Buddhist now. I mean, it just... And again, this gets to an important point where people say, well, you know, Islam isn't a race, so it's not bigotry to be against all Muslims. Yeah, but wait. In the mind of most Americans, when they think of Muslims, what do they think of? Somebody from the Middle East. Somebody who looks Arab or South Asian. So it's a bigotry against Arab-looking people, South Asian-looking people. It's a bigotry against that skin tone. Call it what it is. So, sure, you could say it's not technically racism to be against all Muslims, but it's certainly bigotry. It's certainly intolerance. And that's something that we should oppose. And then also, remember, guys, and we just spoke about this too. Does that mean you cannot criticize the religious doctrines? Of course not. Fucking go to town on that. That's one of my favorite things to do is to point out how stupid holy books are. I love pointing at ridiculous verses in the Quran or the Hadith or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or whatever. Go to town on that. That's not bigotry at all. That's just you saying, hey, I disagree with this and here's why it's factually incorrect. That's a different thing. But to say, I'm against that, therefore, I am going to assume that every Muslim has a literalist interpretation and a fundamentalist interpretation and is violent, and they're all bad, well, then that does make you a bigot.